Hi, I'm Kerry Cunningham, and welcome to Lies My Marketing Experience Told Me. This is a video series where B2B go-to-market luminaries tell us all about things that they used to believe are true, but which they know are not true anymore. And we're doing this series because all of us who've been around for a while have lots of things that we used to think are true about B2B go-to-market, but which we know weren't true and probably were never true. And so if you're an industry veteran, you're probably going to recognize yourself in a lot of these things, and I think you'll really enjoy that. If you're not an industry veteran, if you're relatively new, then this series could save you a lot of time. These are really great insights from people who've been there and done that. A lot of times, people who were there and founded that or started that. And so I think you'll really enjoy those. So without further ado, I bring you our guest for this episode, Matt Heinz. Matt Heinz is a B2B luminary for sure. He's one of the best known thought leaders in B2B. Been around for a long time, but even more importantly, is really smart and has figured out a lot of things about how to do B2B well. And his agency is a great resource for B2B marketers, and you can find him on LinkedIn as well. We'll talk more about that at the end of the episode. All right, so I hope you'll enjoy this episode with Matt Heinz. So welcome back to another episode of Lies My Marketing Experience Told Me. I am very excited to have Matt Heinz, the one and only Matt Heinz, with me today. Who's probably heard about all of the lies about B2B marketing and selling that have ever existed. So I'm super excited about this. Say hi to everybody, Matt.
I think he just said that I'm old. Did he say that I'm old? I think he said I'm old.
That's how people tell me I'm
old. Yeah, it's fair.
So what we do is we just talk about something that we used to think was true, that probably everybody at the time thought was true. But that we know isn't true anymore. So, Matt, what's your lie?
My lie is that you need a certain level of experience and education to get to do this. And I don't know if that's because that was actually true or that's because my inferiority complex told me that was true. But that was a lie that you have to have a certain career path and that you have to have had a certain education to be a marketing leader.
Gotcha. Okay. So this dovetails a little bit with another thing that I think is kind of a lie that may rub the other way, but I suspect we'll come to common ground on it. But, and that is that there's nothing to know here. And that's something that I think we suffer from in B2B marketing a little bit.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Meaning like we're all making this up as we go and it doesn't matter what you learn in the past, that you can figure it out without that precedent or without that wisdom.
Yeah. Like there's no value in expertise, I guess.
Oh yeah. No, that is different. Yeah. I think that is a totally different scenario.
So let's disentangle those two things. So start with, I'm interested in understanding, how you came to this understanding and then maybe.
Well, it was personal for me, right? Like, I mean, I'm a political science and journalism major from University of Washington and intended to be a reporter for my career and ended up at a PR firm and then went into Microsoft. And it was really at Microsoft where I really started to have that inferiority complex. Like I was in the room with really smart people who many had intended to be in marketing. I did not. I was going to be a journalist. Right. And almost all of them had MBAs. Most of them had Harvard or Ivy League MBAs. And so I expected so first of all, I didn't really believe in myself, I think because I didn't have the experience and intent that people did. But then I assumed that I was going to reach a ceiling soon in my career if I didn't have the MBA. And I spent a lot of time wringing my hands around it. I finally had a manager that, kind of talked some sense into me and I kind of abandoned it. And, I think now, as much as I think it would be nice and fun to have had that experience and that grounding, I think that what you do in the field, what you do in your time in your career is way more important and becomes more and more relevant the longer you do it.
Yeah. So you and I talked about this, I remember at a dinner not that long ago, because I was a journalism major as an undergrad too. And it's not a bad idea if you're going to be in marketing to learn how to identify a story and to write, right? And construct the narrative, right?
Exactly. There's a difference between writing and storytelling. right?
Right.
Like, I mean, ChatGPT can write something, like you can factually write up a press release, but to not just identify the interesting story, but be able to tell that story,
Right.
whether it's written or verbal or visual, like to think about this in terms of storytelling, what's going to keep someone's attention, what's going to teach them what you need them to know. That
Yeah,
is an art.
it is. I think maybe being a journalism major is really good preparation for being a marketer. Uh,
Yeah, you couldn't convince 26-year-old Matt to believe that, because he was in the room with these smarties from Harvard and Northwestern. And um, although what's funny is, like, I mean, with context, with experience, with years, one of the smartest people that I ever worked with at Microsoft was a zoology major from a school I think he made up, because I've never been able to find it. And one of the dumbest blocks I worked with at Microsoft was a Harvard MBA. Now, I've also worked with brilliant, humble, amazing Harvard MBAs over the years. But you would have thought that even those anecdotal examples would have taught me that there isn't a tried and true path, that you can
yeah,
find your way with smarts, with diligence, with sometimes with blind ignorance, that keep moving forward. But you can still do it.
yeah. Well, I think the other thing that that strikes me about what you're saying is also that things have changed so much
Yeah.
since I started my career, since you started yours, since somebody who's 30 started theirs. Things have changed a lot. So if you,
Mhm.
I think there's a lot to learn. If you, I didn't study business market. I was so afraid of business when I was an undergrad. I never went into the business
Yeah.
building at all. Um, and I wish I had, because there were a lot of things that I think could have shortcut my learning a lot if I had
Hmm.
learned those things in school. But because things do change, I think
Yeah.
one, you have to constantly be learning anyway.
Yeah.
Um, and then a lot of the stuff that you might learn, like one of the things that I've seen in B2B, I think we both probably, tell me if you agree, but I see a lot of people who learn something once and they're stuck with it.
Hmm.
And that's what they know.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's that. Now, those
Yeah.
people are not generally in the lower or even mid levels in the organization. I
Right.
find that they're at the top, that they learned something about marketing a long time ago,
Yeah.
and that's
Well, you
it.
learned it because you did it and it worked.
Right.
And you're no longer in the weeds, and you assumed it worked because it worked for you. And so,
Yeah.
these, hot trotters coming up, like, why can't they just do it the way I did it? I think there is an aversion to continuing to learn,
Mm,
because either you feel like you already know it, or you feel like you shouldn't have to learn something new, or you assume certain universal laws of truth that are not laws of physics, that are trends that change over time.
right.
And I think there's a certain level of curiosity and humility that has to go along with someone that's willing to not only continue to learn, but also over time. And this is where I will start to sound old. There's things that I accept that have changed and are true, but I'm not in the weeds doing it the way I used to do it.
Right.
So to be able to accept that something's different, that the way I did the tactics earlier is not the tactics that work today, and I don't fully understand the tactics because I'm not actually hands on keyboard doing them, that's kind of a scary thing to accept, that
Yeah.
you don't understand all the rules right now, and you don't understand the full playbook. But that's kind of like, I mean, I don't know how you feel about this. Like, occasionally we'll see someone say, like, a CMO needs to understand everything about SEO.
Hmm.
No, because if
Yeah.
you can't be a successful CMO and know everything about every function that you're supposed to be managing and overseeing, you at some point need to hire people and trust people to be able to do what they do well, where your skill set now migrates to a different set of functions as a leader.
Right. Um, Question then about the role. So two things. One, I mentioned expertise up
Yeah.
front, and um, the more time I've spent in marketing, it's been most of my adult life, but I spent a bunch of time outside of it as well. But the more time I spend in it, and the more I study it, the more I discover that there's a lot to know, and it isn't all uh, intuitive. It doesn't all follow exactly the way you would think things work. And so I'm curious about one. What do you think about expertise, and what's the best way for somebody if they're getting into marketing today to get it? Um, the other thing,
Yeah.
Could I
Go
just
ahead.
have one? I'm going to prompt you anyway about, because you're so involved in the CMO community, and I think that's a group of people who are at the top of their fields, but sharing expertise constantly, and that strikes me as a really good model of that.
So there's a book called From Strength to Strength. And if you're anywhere in between your late 30s and maybe early 50s, I think it's a valuable book to read because it talks about this concept of having different phases of your career where you start with like having done all of the work, which is sort of fluid intelligence, thinking, solving
Mm,
new problems. It makes the
yeah,
case that all the Nobel Prizes, even if they're won by someone older, it's based on core work they did like
they
in their
did
late
wonderful.
20s, early 30s. It's
Yeah,
when we're at our peak intellectually. And look, our bodies break down and the brains are part of that, right? And so a lot of people, when they get past that, they can feel it, they recognize it, and they're like, what am I really valuable now? Where am I valuable now? And the author makes the case that you move from fluid intelligence to crystallized intelligence.
mm,
And crystallized intelligence is accumulated knowledge and wisdom combined with what's happening today to provide some guidance.
yeah,
So the rules, the tactics, the technology may change, but your crystallized intelligence, your all of that experience becomes wisdom and helps you make better decisions. It's impossible for someone younger to have that because they just haven't lived through it. And so to get that,
yeah,
you can learn from people that have it, right? Like if I was earlier in my career, if I could go back in time, I'd spend way more time learning from the masters, learning from people that have been doing it forever and trying to build that base of knowledge while going out and doing the work. Knowing
yeah,
that some of that was going to be, it would work based on what the masters, the crystallized intelligence folks came up with. Some of it was going to be new stuff I was figuring out based on variables that they didn't get to play with, right? And it works in the other way as well. Like if I'm in the place where like I've started to accumulate some knowledge and experience and that has value, it only has value if it's relevant given the circumstances and tactics and variables that are available today.
mhm,
So I am not an AI native, but to learn from people that are and how they're using the tools and how they're not using the tools is helping me immensely hone crystallized intelligence to give better, more complete go-to-market strategic recommendations.
yeah. I love that for obvious bias reasons because I am way into the crystallized category of things. So yes, but I also love uh, learning new things. And
Mhm.
what I continually find is the crystallized intelligence, the context from not even just from marketing, but from lots of different things that I've been interested in over time help me solve problems today in a way that is so much more effective, efficient, or whatever than what I was doing a long time ago.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, it's also why by postmenopausal women live past past their 40s. Honestly, this is from an evolutionary perspective. The question of why there are old people at all, much less old women past their reproductive age, was a problem that people had a really hard time understanding for a while until they came to, I think, what is essentially the same idea that you're talking about, which is that accumulated knowledge and wisdom is extraordinarily valuable for the communities in which people have lived over time, and it continues to be
The only problem I have with the concept of crystallized intelligence is crystallized is a little too close to frozen,
for us, right? I
right?
hear you. Yeah,
So if your intelligence is frozen and not willing to continue to migrate and learn and evolve, then that can actually be a problem. And we've seen in the entertainment world, in the professional world, in the business world, plenty of examples of where that happens. So I
yeah,
think that ongoing curiosity and humility is an important part of making that not only relevant but also accessible
yeah,
to an audience that is really sort of in their prime fluid intelligence. I do think it's very much a two-way street.
yeah. I agree. So it makes me think also some of the smartest marketers I've ever met were engineers who took on the role of marketing.
Yeah.
And these are people who I find generally, others might have different experiences, but I have found that um, are just generally curious about how things actually work.
Yeah. Yeah.
How does it work? Not what are the rules, not what do people do, but how does this actually work? Um, and they have an engineering mindset of looking at it that way and saying, "Oh, how does it work? How do I take it apart and put it back together again, or make it work better?"
Well,
Yeah.
and now we may have come full circle, because now you're describing some of the skills that make good journalists good at what they do, right? You have to be a good journalist, you have to be able to tell good stories, but equally you have to be able to ask good questions and ask the right questions, and know that, like, in asking the right questions, you will get better insights and answers than if you actually just tried to go and figure it out yourself in many cases, right? And I think that again, like, back to sort of curiosity and humility, and knowing that, like, there may be answers out there you can capture, but also there may be known unknowns. Like, you may not have the answers to every question, but if you can build the right set of questions, you're much more likely to find the answer because you've already enumerated the question, right? That's a real thing.
Yeah.
And so I think that asking questions does not have to be completely and immediately met by answers.
Right. Yeah, I think that's extremely important.
There's crystallized intelligence for you right there.
It is. I wrote an article a while back. There's a concept from psychology. It's called need for closure, need for cognitive closure, and it just refers to how strongly do you feel pulled to put a bow on this problem, to just answer the question.
Yeah.
And if you're a person who feels like you need to get to an answer quickly, or it makes you very uncomfortable to not have one, you're going to end up with a lot of not very good answers. And when you have leaders in companies who need to get answers fast and want the quick one and aren't willing to wade through some of the muck to get past what seems like the easy answer, you end up with bad answers. And I think we see a lot of that.
Did you just describe the attribution problem in B2B, Kerry?
I did. Yes. Yeah. So it's actually so I wrote that article in the context of attribution in B2B. Exactly right. So there is that's some fluid intelligence right there, making that connection from there to there while I'm talking about it.
I don't know, maybe a little bit of both. But I think, seriously, it's a really interesting way of sort of saying, okay, like, I want an answer and I'm willing to accept the wrong answer instead of the right answer because the wrong answer at least answers the question. Like, is that literally what you just described?
Yeah.
Like, it's not right, but at least completes the circle. It completes the circuit. I don't know, man.
Yeah. So, we all experience this differently in different parts of our lives. So if I go to the grocery store, the first answer for everything I'm supposed to buy is perfectly fine with me. I do not want, I'm not going deep. This is not a perfect example, but I'm not going to go back and get the fifth item behind the shelf to make sure it's the perfect one or whatever. I just get me there and get me out. Right. I need to close that. I don't want it to linger. And I don't like to spend time choosing, but when you have that approach to something that's a really important question that has nuanced possible answers or whatever, you can end up going down a long road with the wrong, or at least not the best solution. So
there are a number of inconvenient truths in our business. And one of them is that, if you are leaning into managing the buying journey the way it naturally happens, and you've done a great job of pointing out some of those inconvenient truths in your research, right? The fact that people don't want to talk to you until way later, but they've already made up their mind who they want to talk to by then too, right? So that creates tension. Okay, like, how do I manage that? So the laws of nature in B2B that do change from time to time, like, they don't fit in a perfect spreadsheet. They don't fit into a perfect report. And that is very frustrating to everyone involved, not just the board, not just the CFO, not just the investors, but the very marketers trying to do this also are frustrated by the fact that they can't complete that circle.
Yeah.
But instead of leaning into that messiness and doing the right thing by the buyer, the right thing by the journey, the right thing by the law of nature, we decide something else is going to work because the spreadsheet makes it easier to say. And we create tension at every level. We create tension with the board. We create tension with the CFO. We create tension with the very buyers we're trying to sell to, because we're trying to make it as simple as ourselves for artificial reasons.
Yeah. And so tying this back to your original kind of the original lie. I think you can enter marketing from outside of marketing. If you enter marketing from a university where you've studied marketing, you will have been indoctrinated to an extent. In right, and you've got authorities telling you things, and you learn that. If you come to it from someplace else, you're not indoctrinated yet. You're about to be indoctrinated, but you have the ability to inoculate yourself against that by being curious, asking questions. And maybe in your first jobs, you can only ask the question to yourself, and you can make notes, for your next gig or something.
Yeah.
But I think there is an advantage to coming to something from the outside and not having been indoctrinated into a way of thinking about it.
I mean, we see this all the time, right? I mean, this is one of the key tenets for encouraging diversity in the workplace, right? You will have better answers by diversifying the sources of input that you have. Having someone that thinks differently, having someone that thinks like a journalist, thinks like an engineer, thinks like a salesperson in your marketing organization will make you better automatically.
Yeah. There was somebody literally on LinkedIn half an hour ago pinged me. This person has a degree, undergraduate degree, but a degree in data science, predictive modeling. Didn't know they did that at the undergrad level. Wants to be a BDR. Because she wants to learn the business from that
I'll
side.
tell you, man, if I could make an argument, and this is maybe a whole other thing, another episode, is like, you want to go into business in any format, start in sales, right? Whether that means you're a BDR or go be a rep for like solar panel company, door to door selling college kids painting your house, like any number of these count. Yeah. You will learn very quickly what does and doesn't work. You will learn very quickly how hard it is. You will have a set of experience. Not only can you make a ton of money, like if you're 23 or 24, 22 years old, like, beer and rent money is all you need anyway. But like the experience and knowledge you will get, the advancement of that fluid intelligence will be significant.
I absolutely, would have hated that advice, but I ended up doing that really out of desperation. I wanted to be a copywriter. And I couldn't get a copywriting job, so I got a job selling ad space. And I learned a great deal, among which things was I don't want to be a seller, but I have enormous respect for people who can do it and do it well.
It's really hard. I until I started this business, I didn't have a sales job, and sort of inherently as founder of a services business, you're sort of in a selling job now, and you learn a lot of things really quickly. That those multiples of pipeline really matter. That time kills all deals. Like all these things that you hear about and you read about, then you immediately feel. It is a very hard job. It's a very fulfilling job, but it is a very hard job.
And the emotional intelligence, the emotional control it requires to do that effectively over time.
Yes.
Yeah. Lots of respect. So one other thing, and I'm hoping I can tie to this, is the role of AI. And so there was a post that got a lot of attention on LinkedIn last week saying that in the future, everybody's going to be a generalist because AI is going to hold all of the expertise, and we're all going to work in pods of generalists, and AI will hold the expertise. And I thought that was the biggest crock of shit I'd almost ever heard. Yeah. I think if we get to that, we will have a world of unbearable, mediocre bullshit.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think expertise and artistry are going to stand out more than ever.
Yeah, that's my sense.
More than ever. Because I think that expertise is not just an accumulation of what is known, but it's combining that, as we've talked about, with what is happening in real time and what you foresee moving forward.
Yeah.
The AI technology will get better, and it will get better at sort of like predicting the future. It's not living in the real world.
Right.
So I think that expertise and that crystallized intelligence and your ability as a leader to sort of evaluate and make decisions for an organization, for a culture, for an employee base, for a customer base, I think is still unique. And I do think artistry will continue to stand out.
Yeah.
Right. No, I think a lot of what we see from AI is getting better, but it isn't reaching the masters. right?
Right.
And there is still, I mean, and getting, so you could make the argument, like, how do you get to those 10,000 hours if like all the entry level jobs are gone? So like we got that problem to solve, but I do think that we will figure that out. We're smart people.
Yeah.
Artists who have starved and grinded forever, like they will continue to do so. And that work will stand out and we will still value it. We will still pay for it. We will still benefit from it.
Yeah. Well, I hope you're right about that. I think also as you think about entering, say, marketing from a different area of the world, large language models can help you fill in gaps that would have been much harder to fill in a long time ago. So, not
Yeah.
expertise, it can get you up to novice from know nothing, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And what's the very short course in how I do this thing that I was just asked to do that I'd never heard of before, right?
Yeah.
That you can get fast.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of places where AI is already taking over sort of, motions and parts of the jobs to be done that I think people get nervous about. But I think those are the things that oftentimes require less thinking,
Yeah.
And so I think about those entry level jobs, but I think about like my first job at a PR firm was like writing briefing books for clients going on press tours. That's not a job anymore. Like we've had the internet's done that for a while. Now AI is doing it a lot faster. But there's still interests of PR firms. There's still jobs to be done across a number of go-to-market motions. And I think we're undervaluing the things we can't even conceive yet.
Right.
Like, Kerry, when I was in college, and again, we've established that we're old. When I was in college, there was no internet. There wasn't really cell phones. There was no cloud computing. Like, those aren't innovations. Those are industries. Those are entire economies now.
Right. Yeah.
And so AI is becoming that, and whatever comes next after AI will become that as well. And those maybe changed jobs and took jobs, but they created a massive amount of work and wealth and opportunity. I'm convinced this will happen as well. And this will not be like all of a sudden we're waking up tomorrow and then we're all without a job. Like, this will happen gradually. And we as humans are good at adjusting. We're good at innovating. We're good at figuring out where we can provide value.
Yeah. I mean, I think we're good, and I won't be a complete downer on this. I think, there will be substantial amount of upheaval, right? So
Sure.
It's not just lift and shift and that's that necessarily.
Yeah. But when you adjust to that upheaval, look, we're taking more pictures than ever before. Kodak couldn't figure out how to sort of adjust to that, right?
Yeah.
Like, we're shopping more online than ever before, but Best Buy still exists. Like, retailers still exist, but Sears didn't make the move, right? And so we will have plenty of examples of companies that didn't adjust and didn't survive. There will be companies in those same industries that adjust and thrive.
That's right. Yeah. Totally. And I'm with you 100% on, I work, ChatGPT is my best friend. I work with it constantly, and I can spin up an article that I end up writing in about 1/10 the time now, because it does all of the crap in the first 4 or 5 drafts of what would have been really terrible. And I can get to something that now I can shape to be something that sounds like me, that understands what I know, that has my crystallized intelligence in it. I can get there so much faster, and then I can move on. I can do something else, right?
There's creating and there's publishing, and people forget about the most important step, which is editing. No one has a first draft that is actually ready for publication. And we talk all the time about saying, like, oh, I just whipped this up and put this on LinkedIn. Sure you did. And I know you did. But if you would have spent more time on it, it would have been better.
Yeah.
It would have been more. It would have been. So I firmly believe that, and I think that for people that are creators, the magic is not in the first draft. The magic is in the editing. And refining your idea to something that is far more impactful. And I think that if that's where I get to spend my time versus having to like sit down and fight imposter syndrome and writer's block and sort of get a first draft out, I'm more than happy to have a robot help with that, especially if you can train one that knows your voice, knows your writing style, knows how you think. That exists today. That's a huge advantage.
And then again, if you come to marketing from another field, you bring whatever it is that you've had as life experiences and educational experiences and other job experiences that aren't just being indoctrinated in how we do marketing. And I think that makes you a more interesting person. So, Matt, is there anything else that you would say about advice for people? Have you already? I think you've given a bunch of really good.
Yeah,
advice.
I mean, there will always be places that would prefer a certain level of education or experience or want your resume to look a certain way.
Yeah.
I would posit that those, if you're looking for your next job, those might not be the best places to work. Look for those that value you, the way you talk now, the way you think through and solve problems. And the way that I would recommend, like, yeah, go to a good school, get a good education, but get as much real world experience as you can as early as possible. My daughter is a sophomore in high school, and she's doing a little internship work for our company right now. Not working for me, but working for people inside the company. And it's a lot of tactical work. But
Yeah.
I told my wife the other day, I said, like, she's not even a junior in high school. She knows how to use Salesforce. You can't tell me that isn't a building block that is
Yeah.
going to help her down the road.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's great. Really good. Well, Matt, I appreciate your time today and sharing your life. I think this has been we've roamed a bit, but I think it's been a really fun conversation and I think a valuable one for people
I
to
hope
have,
so.
especially as they look.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, thanks for having me. This is fun.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks, Matt. Want to say thank you again to Matt Heinz for taking the time to talk to us today about the lies that he's learned from in his career. We hope that you've enjoyed the episode, and we hope you will enjoy the rest of the series. And you can find that plus lots more content at sixthsense.com/science of B2B, and just put hyphens in between the three words science of B2B. We'll see you in the next videos. Thank you.